Discovery Series.
Welcome back to I Love Music, the Apollo's Fire Discovery Series. I'm your host, Gabby.
And I'm your host, Angela. Last time, we met the conductor and founder of Apollo's Fire Orchestra, Jeanette Sorrell. We saw the orchestra play music that had lots of feelings. Does anyone remember what kind of orchestra Apollo's Fire is?
Baroque Orchestra!
Hi, August. Hey, Philip. Thanks for joining us today. And that's right, Apollo's Fire is a Baroque orchestra. They're special because they play instruments just like the ones used by musicians in the Baroque era.
We also became conductors and practiced keeping the beat and tempo while listening to Apollo's Fire play music.
In today's episode, we are going to meet some very special guests.
Special guests? Who are they?
We get to meet 4 composers who lived 400 years ago during the Baroque period.
Composers are people who write music. We'll hear and learn about the beautiful music they created.
How are we going to meet them?
We have a special map that lets us see where the Baroque composers came from. We'll learn all about them and what made them known worldwide hundreds of years later.
Traveling to a special map to meet the composers? Cool! Awesome! Let's go!
Here we go!
Whoa!
We are now looking at our special Baroque Era map. Which place are we going to see our composers?
Well, Baroque music wasn't just played in one place, it was played all over. Baroque music was composed and played in countries such as Italy, France, Germany, and England.
So we're going on a tour! The 4 composers we'll learn about today are Bach, Vivaldi, Bologne, and Strozzi. A lot of composers often wore 2 hats, meaning they had many talents. Like how Jeanette conducts and plays the harpsichord. These composers had other skills as well.
Wow! I'm ready to meet them all! Who's the first composer on our list?
The first Baroque composer on our tour is Johann Sebastian Bach in Germany.
Bach came from a family of musicians. He eventually had 21 children of his own. The musical instruments he played were the organ, harpsichord, and violin. Bach started writing music as early as 10 years old. He began playing in the church. He worked very hard and got a job performing and writing music for a prince.
Whoa! I could start writing music now and be just like Bach.
Yeah, Philip, that's right. And with each composer, we will hear a piece of music they wrote played by Apollo's Fire. Here's a Bach piece called Brandenburg 4.
Was beautiful. Who's next?
Next up, we're going to Italy, here to meet Antonio Vivaldi.
Vivaldi was an Italian composer and musician. Vivaldi played the violin. His teacher was his father.
My dad taught me how to dance.
Wow, August! You and Vivaldi have great teachers. When Vivaldi grew up, he became the music teacher at a special orphanage for girls. The girls played violin, cello, and sang. They practiced music for hours every day and got incredibly good.
Here's a piece we actually heard in our first episode. It's The Four Seasons by Vivaldi.
Now we travel to meet Joseph Boulogne, also called the Chevalier of Saint-Georges.
Joseph Boulogne was a French, African, Baroque, and early classical composer, a great violinist, a conductor of the leading symphony orchestra in Paris, and he was a renowned champion fencer.
He played the violin and he fenced? He sounds so cool.
He was cool. His father was a wealthy French plantation and slave owner in the Caribbean islands of Guadeloupe, and his mother was an African slave. Boulogne was born in Guadeloupe and then traveled and grew up in France. By the time he turned 20, Boulogne was famous for being one of the greatest fencers in France. The French government decided to give him the title of Chevalier, which means knight in French. Being knighted is like getting a special and important award. When he was 27, he caused another big sensation by making his debut as a solo violinist, performing a violin concerto that he wrote and he often played for the Queen.
Now let's listen to one of Boulogne's compositions, Symphony Concertate in G.
Song. Well, who's our last composer?
Last, but certainly not least, of our Baroque Composers tour, meet Barbara Strozzi. And we're going back to Italy. Most composers of the Baroque period that we know of were men. Not that women didn't want to be composers, but there wasn't as much opportunity for women composers like there is today. Barbara Strozzi was one of the few women composers and singers we know of the Baroque era.
Barbara Strozzi was an Italian singer and composer. Her father was a famous poet, but her mother was a servant. By the time she was 15, she was singing in concerts, sometimes singing her own music. She wrote 8 volumes of music throughout her life and even was a mother of 4 children.
She sounds amazing! Maybe I'll be a famous singer one day too.
Maybe one day, August. And now we'll listen to one of Miss Strozzi's pieces, What Can You Do? Or in Italian, Che si può fare?
That is such a lovely song. And we did it! We met all 4 composers!
Yay! Great job!
Let's learn a little bit more about who the music was for.
Composers wrote music for all kinds of occasions, and that meant that everyone was able to listen to music. From village people playing music in their tiny homes in the countryside, to churches, and in the fancy royal castles where the queens and kings lived.
Baroque music was for all people 400 years ago.
Yes, and for all people today. We're going to play a game where we listen to two types of Baroque music, folk music and palace music.
I love games. I'm ready.
In this game, you will hear examples of music from the Baroque era. Each example represents either folk music written for everyday life in the countryside or formal music written for stately events at a palace. At the end of each piece, we'll ask you to pick if you thought it was Baroque Palace or Baroque folk music. Folk music versus palace music.
Guess the Baroque music. Is it folk music or is it palace music? The answer is
Baroque Palace music. The answer is
Baroque folk music. The answer is
Baroque Palace music. The answer is
Baroque folk music.
nice job playing, everyone. How did you do? Did you guess any of them correctly?
I think I got a few right. Let's ask our student friends what they liked about each style of Baroque music. August, what did you think of the palace music?
The palace music sounded so royal and formal, it made me feel like I was a queen, sitting in her castle, watching all of her subjects.
Well said, August. And Philip, how did Baroque folk music make you feel?
The folk music made me feel like I was with all my friends and we were together having a big party, dancing and laughing, which made me feel happy.
That's awesome. Baroque music is wonderful at telling stories because the music has so much feeling and allows you to use your imagination while you're listening. So in that case, which was your favorite style?
My favorite was the royal palace music, of course.
And my favorite was the folk music.
I think you both made a great choice.
I love that everyone, no matter who they are, can enjoy music.
Me too. But I think it's time to wrap up today's episode.
Do we have to? I want to keep exploring the Baroque period.
Me too. Come back next time and we'll learn more. For now, let's review what we learned today.
Seeing all the different composers was so much fun. Let's see if we can remember all of them.
Oh, Bach and Vivaldi.
Don't forget Boulogne and Strozzi.
You got them all.
We learned about all kinds of people who wrote and listened to music. Old, young, rich, poor, and everyone in between. Thank you for your help today, August and Philip.
Bye!
Bye-bye.
Join us next time for more Baroque music fun.
I love music, and I love learning. See you next time. Bye!